Welcome back to LDCC Sports Zone. I'm Garrison Kingston, and I'm here with Jonah Jenkins. And today we're going to be going over the first week of the 2024 LDCC basketball season. So we had varsity and JV games this week, and we're just going to be going over what happened. And so each week, then me and Jonah will both pick our offensive and defensive players of the week. We'll both have our own picks, so there will be four total players for varsity and four total for JV. And then we'll probably talk about some of the games and we'll just see where we go from there, I guess. So to start, then I'll start with the JV offensive player of the week. For my offensive player, I have Michael Kingston. He is on Ephraim's team, I believe, and his stat line looked pretty good. I was also there to watch. I think I watched the first three quarters of that, and so he ended with 21 points. He had 4 offensive rebounds, and so I think his points were good for second in the league. I think he had the second most. He also shot it pretty well, 57%. He didn't take any threes, but he had twos, and so he got 21 points off of twos and free throws only, but he shot his twos at 57%. That's solid for a player like him, where he's not only down low. A few things that I would like to see him fix, though: he had 0 assists and he had 5 turnovers, and so I think, he performed well enough to get the offensive player this week for me, but in the future, if that turnover number doesn't go down and if the assists, you got to at least have, if you have 21 points, you got to at least have 1 or 2 assists. But it's good enough for this week. So good job to Michael. He's my offensive player of the week for JV.
That's funny because my offensive player of the week is Fisher. I watched that entire game, and Fisher, it seemed like he didn't do as much as he did, but after looking at stats, then he had the most points. That's one of the main reasons I decided to choose Fisher for the offensive player of the week. But in the game, then he just, every time his team needed a bucket, then it seemed like he came through. Him and Michael together came through every time. That was a fun game to watch. And speaking of that game, I'll go straight into my defensive player of the week is Jared Freeman. He played good defense. He had a good amount of blocks. He ended up having 4 blocks, 2 steals, and 3 assists. Assists are offensive, though. But he played really well. He had 7 defensive rebounds as well. And it seemed every time that he was guarding somebody, they wanted to set a screen to get him off of them every time. And he performed really well defensively. And shout out to Fisher. He played extremely well. All of his threes and his buckets were very timely, and that helped their team win.
Okay. Yeah, so Jared as your defensive player. I do like Jared as a defensive player. He seems like he's he can shut somebody down if he needs to. Something that I would like to see more of him is, and I know Morgan's team is full of big guys, but I'd like to see Jared down low more because I think he's probably the most athletic guy on his team, and he keeps trying to sit up top the whole entire game. And so he played great defense from what I saw. I think he could up it. He could turn his defense up a little bit if he went down low. And he probably could have had more blocks, more steals, more rebounds. So if he moves his game a little bit more down low, which as a defender, you don't really get to decide. If you're playing man defense, then you just got to stick with your guy. But I would like to see him a little bit more down by the basket. I think his defensive numbers could even go higher than what they were. But
who's your defensive player of the week for JV?
So for my defensive, I have Eldon Smith. He had 5 blocks, 7 defensive rebounds. He only had 1 steal, but I think the 5 blocks,
that's a good performance.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
5 blocks is actually crazy to have in a game, I think. Especially, he's pretty tall, but he's not like I don't look at Eldon and I'm like, oh man, he's big, like Joey or like Lewis. Like Eldon Smith isn't in that category for me, where it's like if I go down low on him, he's probably gonna block me, but I don't know what it is with Eldon. I guess he just knows how to get blocks.
He gets pretty high. Watching him in sports, he's pretty athletic. He can jump pretty good. So I'm sure that plays a big role into it.
Okay, so yeah, Eldon, congratulations, Week 1 JV Defensive Player of the Week for me. Moving into varsity now, we can start with offensive. I have Jonah.
And other than me, huh?
Yep. Jonah, Offensive Player of the Week, 24 points, 3 assists, shot it at 444 field goal. So 44% field goal, not bad. You also shot a 37 and a half.
I told people I was going to be able to make threes this year.
Okay, yeah, so you sucked at threes last year,
It's like 20-something% last year.
but it looks like you might have picked it up, and it looks like it's helping your game out a little bit. 24 points. How many points did you average last year?
I don't know, but I passed the ball a lot more last year, and after watching my game, then there were there were a lot of times I should have gave the ball up, but I ended up taking a contested shot. So that's just something I need to work on. But last year, I think I averaged around 18 points, maybe 15 to 18 points a game.
Okay, well, you bumped up a little bit then. 24 points. You still got 3 assists. That's probably about what you were averaging last year, I would assume. And they
Yeah,
They
it's
don't
around
really
3 to 5.
track assists very well.
I feel like the stats did a good job on assists on the first week.
You had 3 turnovers,
Yeah.
so not terrible. Not terrible for somebody who has the ball in their hands a lot. But obviously, you want to see it go down to 0. But 3 turnovers, that's not gonna dock you. I mean, it's
That's
still
less
good.
than 1/4.
Yeah. So
That's pretty
so you're good. So congratulations to you.
nice.
24
Nice.
points, 3 assists, 44 field goal. Offensive Player of the Week for varsity, Jonah Jenkins.
Well, so now I'm going to talk about my offensive player of the week, and I didn't pick you, Garrison, sadly. But so Ashton Kingston for me was offensive player of the week. He didn't just score, just because he takes a lot of shots. He scored really efficiently. He shot 52.6% from field goal, which is really good. From the 3, he shot 40%, and for 2, he shot 66%. And he scored the most points out of anybody for the first week of varsity. So that's really impressive. He did a really good job on his team. My team played against Ashton's team. We ended up winning that game. But at the end of the game, Ashton just kept hitting a bunch of shots, which allowed his team to stay into that game. And he played really well offensively.
How many points do you think he had in 4th?
Ashton, I think he hit like 4 threes. I'd say and maybe a couple 2s. I'd say he probably had about 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Okay, so he would have
And
sucked then if he didn't hit the fourth quarter shots.
yeah, I mean, but it's better to suck the first 3 quarters and then play good the fourth quarter and win the game than play good in the first 3, not be able to close out a game.
No, I agree. Looking at the stats, he played really well. The reason I brought that up, I just talked to a few different people and they told me so I wasn't there for the first. I got there like midway through the 3rd, I think, and everybody I talked to was like, I don't know how his stats look so good. Like he was not hitting shots until the fourth quarter. Then that's when he finally started picking it up. So I wanted to see if you had the same. If you remembered it the same as them, I guess. So it wasn't meant as a knock on Ashton. He deserves it. 26 points.
And efficiently, they were efficient. 26%
50% shooting. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm not knocking on Ashton for only being good in the fourth quarter because if I needed a player that was going to be good in one quarter, I would always pick the fourth. So
yep.
That's a good pick.
I'll
One
go
thing with
into,
him, I would like to see go down. He had 7 turnovers,
Yeah,
probably all in the first 3 quarters, and they just played flawless in the fourth. But yeah, that's something that you need to see go down. We get 8 games this year. If you're averaging 7 a game, that's 56 possessions you've thrown away throughout the year.
or even
Gotta
2
fix it,
turnovers.
but-
2 turnovers a quarter. That's just
Yeah.
about.
So, that's like you were putting up those kind of numbers last year.
Yeah. Yep, but we try to improve.
So yeah, it's good to see you a little bit lower on the turnover. category, but we want to see Ashton lower too.
All right, now we went over offensive players for the week for both of us. I'm gonna start off with my defensive player, and I decided to pick Garrison because Garrison did get 3 blocks and a lot of rebounds. And watching his game, then I was picking between Garrison and Ren. And looking at Ren's stats, I don't think they gave him some of the stats he should have. So, I have to watch the game and see how many blocks Ren actually got. But in the game that Garrison was playing, then when they needed, Garrison had a lot of big defensive plays, and his stats didn't really show how big they were. He had a really good block and a lot of the rebounds. Then Brady's team took about 80 shots that game, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
About 80 shots, and I think they had 31 offensive rebounds. And so Garrison on the defense would come in and get rebounds when they needed them and get blocks when they needed them. And that, as a player and as a coach or just someone watching, then you see that and it stands out really well. So that's why I decided to pick Garrison for Defensive Player of the Week. And yeah, you played really good. That was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I've ever had 3 blocks in a game before until this week in my whole life. So
Yeah,
it was nice to get them.
Most of the time you can just kind of relax on defense, focus on offense. But in that game, you needed to play some defense, and you did, and that's what ended up helping you guys win that game.
Yeah, okay. So for my defensive, I did go with Ren. He also got recorded for 3 blocks. I wasn't there for that game. I don't know what happened. I've heard a little bit through the grapevine that he had quite a bit more blocks than just 3, and maybe they didn't get recorded on the stats.
I'm pretty sure he had around 6.
But going off the stats, 3 blocks, it still tied the most in the league. We can't really, base our opinions off of stats got it wrong. We kind of just got to stick with the stats, but his stats were still good enough for me to give him the Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah.
So he had 3 blocks, he had 8 defensive boards, and he had a steal. And to be able to do that, especially with his team where it's all giants. I mean, you got Ren, you got Jared, you got Ben Scott, Patrick. He's kind of shorter, but he plays as a big guy. So you got all these guys who are supposed to be big, and Ren's out there leading them. And something that really stood out was that the points against held Mason to 47 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's if you can hold teams to 47 points, you're gonna win almost every single time. And so to have Ren out there in front leading that defense, he gets it from me for the Defensive Player of the Week. So congratulations to him. So that's all I got for this portion.
All right. Well, now we can go into predictions. I think you were 3-0 on predicting the first week of games, and I believe I predicted that Mason would win that first game against Zach, and Zach ended up winning. So I'm 2-1 on predictions.
Yeah. So I did go 3-0. I predicted you guys to beat Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
I predicted Ortel to beat
Dylan,
and I predicted Zach to beat Mason. So that starts me out at 3-0. I received a lot of comments after we put our last video out. People coming up to me and being kind of upset that maybe we didn't give their team as much credit as they would have liked.
You just got to prove it.
Yeah. If you'd like to prove me wrong, go ahead. I'm 3-0 right now, so I think I have the advantage. But yeah, so I started out 3-0. The games are pretty close.
Except for the first one.
The first game, there was a blowout. The other 2, they were pretty close. So you guys won by more than my team. I felt like your game was closer, though.
It was closer because Ashton just kept hitting those threes, and it's my team would score 2, then they score 3, or then we would score another 2, and they score 3, and they were just slowly climbing back in.
Yeah, and so with my game, so I watched the last quarter and a half-ish of your game, and when I walked in, it was like a 2-point game, I think, and so it was back and forth, and then finally at the very end, and you guys kind of pulled away, but it was close throughout the whole game. So yours felt a lot closer than ours. Our game we won by 6.
It felt further than that because their team just could not hit a shot, man.
It did, and so we got off to a 15-0 start or something.
I think it was 13-0, and then they scored, and then it was like
Their
don't
first
remember
bucket was a
exactly.
free throw. Charles Bryant,
That's
I
right.
think,
Yeah.
hit the free throw,
Shout out to Charles
but he
Bryant.
missed the other one, so it was like 13 or 15 to 1. I mean, we might have even gotten up to 17 to 1. I don't remember. So, but by the end of the quarter, I think we were only up maybe like 10. So they kind of came back. I remember, I think it might have been the end of the second quarter. Ephraim hit that three to end the quarter,
Yeah, it was a big shot.
brought him back within 10 again. End of the third quarter, they're within 10 again. I think they were down 10 every single quarter. I'd have to go back and check, but I think going into every quarter, and we were up 10. And then they ended up closing it a little bit in the fourth, 6 points. But the end of that game kind of was just like we were trying to run timeout. So I think something that I would like to see with my team when we're trying to burn clock, we still have to make sure we get a good shot off. Because the way that it felt like for me was we burn the clock, but we burn it for too long, and then we have to chuck up a
We'll just
a
we'll just,
prayer.
we'll just give it to Garrison or James and have them shoot from anywhere on the court.
Yeah, and so we have to try to manage our plays better when we're trying to burn the clock. And so I think that's the reason they were able to kind of get back in it, is because we would chuck up a prayer, and then they would come down and score, and then we'd go waste the whole shot clock, chuck up a prayer again.
Yeah.
They'd come down and score. So they did get it within 6. To continue on talking about that game, you already mentioned it, but it was crazy to me that my team would even. I mean, it's a little disappointing to see that after the game you look at the stat sheet and the team you played had more
7.
offensive rebounds than defensive.
Yeah,
And so
that's insane.
I will warn everybody, though, that plays Dylan's team. They have a bunch of guys, and Dylan or Danny weren't even there. And
Yeah.
these guys will add to that. Every single player on their team, other than Ephraim, is going to go crash the offensive board every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time they put a shot up, it was like a war zone down there trying to get the rebound, because I'm in the middle of everybody, and I got like Brady, Daniel Stoddard.
Well, let's look at this real quick. How many offensive rebounds did Charles Bryant have?
Charles Bryant had 11,
11.
and he had 19
those.
rebounds total.
8 of those are probably off of his own misses, anyways.
They were so for any of you guys who didn't know or didn't watch the game, a lot of these offensive rebounds, they were like they shoot like 5 or 6 times and they just can't make it, and it's layups every single time, and they just keep rolling off the rim and they'd grab it again, try to put it back up.
Yeah.
And then you got my team that's like not as big, and we're just trying to get up there just enough to tip the ball out to our team, but we can't. And so I wouldn't expect they'd have another game like quite like this, but if you're not careful, because every single play they have at least 4 guys in there trying to crash the rebound offensively.
With Dylan there, then you're going to have Dylan crashing instead of Will McKinnon. That's going to be a lot harder to out-rebound all of them.
And Danny.
And
When Danny's there.
and Danny when
Won't
he
be there
shows up.
much, but he'll get some offensive rebounds
Yeah,
too.
for
So,
sure.
so yeah, that was something that really stood out to me. That's something that we can say Dylan's team did a really good job on, getting the offensive rebounds. You just got to see the field goal percentage get up a little bit. I think part of the offensive rebound thing was that they weren't making any shots, and so when you're not
Yeah,
making
that
shots,
is.
you're bound to get offensive rebounds. So you got to see the shots start going in, especially the 3. They shot as a team under 14% from 3. But good job to Dylan's team. They were able to
14.
pull down 27 offensive rebounds. So that's pretty insane to me. You look at the stat leaders, and they have the top 3 players on offensive rebounds.
Yep.
So, yeah. Moving over to my team, Ortel's team. I think something that I can say I'm proud of my team for is we got out to a really hot start, and so that's something that's always going to help you out in games when you can be up by 15 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough to lose those games, and so that's something that I can say with my team I was proud of. We kind of cooled off towards the end, but we came out and we started off really hot. At very first play of the game, they got the tip. Daniel Stoddard tried to swing to Will McKenna in the corner. I jumped the pass and got an assist on the other end for a fast break layup. And so when you can start a game out with a play like that and it just kind of sparks your team, especially with it being the first game of the year. You're like everyone's got their little bit of jitters and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the way you start it out, then it kind of helps your team get more comfortable. And so I'm proud of my team for being able to do that.
Well, even if you go back and watch that first quarter that you guys had, that's probably some of the best basketball I've seen in a couple of years. The ball movement was great. The shot making was great. Decision making was great. It got to the point to where when I was watching that, it was literally me thinking, why is James Stevens making all these passes when he's right there and he can just shoot it? But he was trying to get everyone involved, and he did that, and that it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a fun quarter. Um, Moving on over to Ashton versus Jonah. I'll let you take this one.
Me take this one, okay? So in that game, then in the first game of the season, you're still trying to figure out who's on your team and how things will work. In that game, then my team played pretty good defense. And going into that game, then we knew Ashton and Brayson would take a majority of the shots, and we just kind of needed to contain them and worry about everybody else if they started hitting shots. After looking at it, then I think the only other person that hit a field goal on that team was Kel. And we kind of, I wouldn't say allowed Ashton and Brayson to shoot, but we kind of decided what they would shoot, if that makes sense. So we tried to contest everything and just tried to make it as hard as possible for them to score, because we know they can. If Brayson, I think he shot 14 threes and only made a couple of them.
Yeah,
And
4 of 14.
4 of 14. And so if he usually shoots around between 30 and 40%. If he makes those extra threes, they're in that game, or they even win that game. And so it was nice that he didn't shoot as well as he usually does. But like I said, Ashton wasn't performing very well until that fourth quarter. And when I say performing, his efficiency was good. He just wasn't taking as many shots. And so as soon as he started hitting, it's like, okay, like on defense, we have to, step this up. We just can't let him get to his spots anymore. But he continued to do that. On my team, then having Garrett bring the ball down is a big help, because that way I don't have to start with the dribble. I can catch anywhere and either shoot or have it off the dribble. Lucas and Josh on my team had very timely shots. Josh hit a couple threes, which is really good. I think he shot around 50%, probably even higher than that from three. But I also hit a couple threes. And what did Josh shoot from three? 60. So he shot 3 of 5. So that's pretty good. That's really good. For me, then in that game, I don't know if you said you watched the end of that game, but when I got that steal and I came down and hit that transition 3, then that was kind of like, okay, this game's over now. We just got to play some defense and this game will be done. But in that game, then my team relied on me in the fourth quarter to hit a couple shots to keep us up, and that's just what I did.
Yeah, so I did watch that 3. That was the dagger right into their hearts. I do think so. Like I said, I wasn't able to watch the majority of the game, but something that I can see with your team, you guys shot the ball pretty well. Outside of Garrett.
Yeah.
Garrett, I'm sure he'll get it going eventually. He's always been a solid player, and so I think he'll get it going. If you take Garrett out of the mix, though, Lucas also wasn't as high, but you guys shot the ball really well. And if you can get Garrett to be even shooting at like maybe 35, 40.
I don't think he made a single shot.
He didn't. So he had 2 free throws.
2 free
That's
throws
where
were
his
his
2 points
points,
came
yeah.
from. But as soon as he gets that up, that is something that I can say with your team is you guys shot the ball really well. And so what that usually means is you guys know the shots you're supposed to take, and that's the ones you take. And then, like I thing to work on, you just got to get Garrett to start hitting some shots.
Yeah, and he will. He just had an off night, and that's one of the great things about having Garrett or a James Stevens on your team, is that they are more of a pass first guy. So I mean, a lot of the shots that Garrett took, he was wide open, and that's why he took them, or he had a clear lane to the basket, and that's why he went. But for the most part, he likes getting people involved and making sure the ball movement's great, and getting everyone on your team to know what they are supposed to do. And so just having him there doing that is worth the 25 minutes that he played. He played great, other than the shots that he missed. Even on defense, he guarded Ashton really well.
Yeah. Okay, and then moving on to Ashton's team. I I did see the fourth quarter of that game. I think we can give some props to their team for their fourth quarter play. It looks like something that they need to improve on is getting their team involved, though. And so you look at the shot spread that they had, and Ashton and Brayson accounted for 75% of their team's shots.
Mhm.
And so I think that can't be that high if they want to win games this year. I think they have to start getting their other guys involved. And Kale shot 9 shots, and that kind of skews the results a little bit in a way because now Kale is like, and I didn't run the exact percentage, but
Yeah.
if these guys shot 75%, Kale shot another like 15-20%.
Then that's 5%.
The rest of their team was
Yeah.
5 to 10%. And so Ryan, he had 2 shots. Terrence had 1 shot. Charles didn't shoot at all. Austin 1 shot. Like, these guys need to start getting their team more shots. And I don't know if they had a game plan where they're like, I'm just gonna shoot and you guys are gonna pass me the ball or what. But I think that they just need to start trusting their role players and just, I mean, it's not bad to take 19 shots if you're Ashton and you hit 10 of them. Like, that's not a bad night.
Yeah.
But you can't have Brayson and Ashton combining for 75% of the shots. You have to get you guys more involved. So something for Ashton's team to work on. Get you guys involved and stop turning the ball over so much. Then going into the last game,
You didn't watch that game, did you?
I was not there for that game.
So I'll just talk about that game. So that game, then it seemed like the teams were pretty neck and neck for the first quarter and a half. But the thing to look at that it doesn't show on this, I mean, if you look at the stats, then Abel only played about 16 minutes. So he showed up just before halftime, got subbed in, and then he didn't have time to warm up. He just came right in, and I don't think he made a single shot after that.
He didn't.
So
He shot
that's
7.
that's really unfortunate for Mason's team. If they had Abel, I don't think they probably would have lost the way Zach's team was playing and the way they were hitting shots, but it wouldn't have been as close for sure. It would have been, they would have had to guard a lot quicker, I would say, on the threes because with Mason was hitting threes, Troy was hitting threes, and nobody else on that team was really hitting except for James O'Brien had a couple. But if you have 3 to 4 people that can hit threes and shoot a good percentage, then it makes the defense have to run and it gets them pretty tired. But they only had to guard the 3 people. So I think if Abel would have showed up earlier, got some warm-up time, then they would have had a higher chance of winning. I shouldn't say they would still win because Zach's team was just playing out of their mind. But that's what that did for sure kill them. And it'd be like on my team if I didn't have Lucas, then that definitely would have changed something. Changed a lot of stuff for the worse. And as far as their team goes, they did shoot pretty well. A couple of players on their team did shoot pretty well. Kay didn't shoot very good. Troy shot 36% from 3, 4 of 11, which is good, which is better than last year. He didn't shoot very well last year, so that already shows improvement. I think they'll be a tougher team to win more as the more games they play. They'll be used to moving the ball, which is going to be, I'm looking forward to playing them. It'll be fun. Zach's team with Ren Jackson is going to be quite the juggernaut on defense, on getting rebounds, as far as just trying to score. They'll, like you said, they held them to 47 points. That's a lot. That shows a lot about how their defense was and how they were rotating, and like a bunch of the players on Zach's team were just really. It seemed like they have been playing for longer than they have. The ball movement was really great. You look at the assists. The 3 of the top 10 people on their team were in the top 10 on assists, I guess. Yeah, so 3 of the top 10 people on assists are on Zach's team. Zach did a good job of getting everyone involved, moving the ball. And Ben Scott hit a lot of threes. Ben Scott played really well. Ren Jackson played really well, and Jared Taylor played really well. And so if they continue to play like that, that team is going to be hard to win. But if Ren is not there, we'll see how things go. I don't know. I don't think they win a game without Ren there, honestly. But they could prove me wrong. We'll see what happens. Just having Ren in the mix, moving the ball, and just the threat that he is, as far as how long he is driving to the basket, He just draws so much attention. It's just hard to guard him in general. And with him not there, then it puts all the pressure on Zach and Jared, and we'll have to see what they can end up doing.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I wasn't at the games, but looking at the stat sheet, there are a couple of things that I think, a couple thoughts I have. Starting off with Mason's team. They kept their turnovers pretty low, it looks like. If they can get Peter, so Peter's their big guy, he shouldn't be having 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to watch. I don't know what exactly he was doing. I'm assuming he was getting the ball stripped from him down low. But you take those turnovers out, and they didn't turn the ball over a lot, and so that's something that they'll want to keep working towards and making sure that they keep their turnovers low. Something that they should probably work on is their field goal percentage. Their field goal percentage is really bad.
Yeah.
Peter, 4 of 13 as a big down low. He needs to be more. He needs to be around like the 50 to 70% range rather than the 30%. As a big guy shooting layups.
Even as Peter got blocked a lot by Ren, and Jared was down there. Like, those are 2 of the biggest guys in the league. That's just going to be hard in general to score down low.
And it is. And so in a case like that, then I think everybody needs to just stop for a second and realize, hey, these guys, they're really strong in the paint. That's not where we're going to score from this game. And they have Cade who they can pull out. And when you have someone like Cade, you can pull out to the 3. Somebody has to follow him out to the 3. And so I don't know what they were doing, if they were pulling Cade out or if he was kind of hanging out down low. But I think in that case, you try to run a small lineup and you just play Cade as your big and just see if that works out any better than Peter. And like going against Jared, you got to have somebody. But I think Cade could have played Jared. Jared's going to get his, obviously, but Cade can slow him down, especially being his brother. There's always the competition there.
Yeah.
So they have to get their field goal up. Troy, like you said, that 3-point percentage is not bad at all, 36. His 2-point percentage has to come up. Mason, 3 of 6 from 3, 50%. That's great.
That is great.
Cade, 1 of 8. He has to get that up. Jacob, 0 of 5. Has to come up.
Yep.
James O'Brien, 2 of 4. That's good. 66% from 3. Like, that's solid.
Yeah, that's great.
Abel, 0 of 7. Has to come up. They have 3 guys who took 5+ shots, and
they've only made 1.
One of them made a shot.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to be trusted by your team to take shots, you can't have zeros in that make column.
Yeah.
And so they got to work on that. And then moving over to Zach's team. I don't really know what they need to work on. I mean, their turnovers were low. Everybody shot pretty well. Jared, if I had to give him anything, Jared just needs to play better down low, I guess. But
yeah.
He shot 50%. Maybe he just needs to not shoot so many threes.
And that's the thing I was telling someone after the games on Wednesday. I said it didn't matter who Zach was playing this first week. The way that his team played, they probably would have beat anybody. Yeah. It just happened to be Mason. Like, they played really well.
Yeah, and so if I had to give Zach's team anything that they got to work on, Jared, he shot 20% from 3. Maybe cut back on that a little bit. But what they did well, they got their whole team involved. Okay, nobody on that team scored more than 20 points, and they still put up 70, 69. But that means that your whole team is there and contributing. They all shot a good percentage. Their field goal percentage as a team was just under 50. And so, I mean, if you can shoot like that all year, you're just going to keep on winning games. So yeah. They get everybody involved, and from what it looks like, they were taking good shots because they were making their shots. So, nice job to them for that.
Yeah, they played really well, and that's if my team would have played them, your team the way they were playing, I don't think we would have won that game. So we're gonna have to see how they do without Ren. See if they can still put up the same efficiency. If they do, then that team's still gonna be hard to beat.
Yes, they will.
I think that about covers it for today's video.
Yep.
Or this week's video, I guess. We'll try to. Are we gonna put one out every week for basketball, or are we gonna do every other?
We probably we'll try to do weekly. And we'll kind of just do reviews like this. You guys can let us know if you like the length of our videos, or if you want to see them longer, shorter, what you kind of want the videos to look like. I know we highlighted JV a little bit. Let us know if you want us like a full in-depth thing for JV, all the JV games, like what we did for varsity today. Maybe we could even split it into 2 different videos, so the varsity guys can watch this one, the JV guys can watch this one. I don't know. Just if you have any thoughts about it, just let us know. You can talk to us in person, call us, text us, or comment. Just let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
And
about midway through the season, we're gonna do a mid recap, go over standings and stuff and it'll be a lot of fun. And within the next 2 weeks, we're gonna have a guest on, which that should be great. It should be good to get another person's perspective. And I think that's it.
I think that's everything.
See you next time.